This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling vitamin E ointment, which helps restore moisture and elasticity to your skin. Hello, everybody. This is Judith Mancini, and this is Judith Mancini Today. I understand we're having a few problems with YouTube on our live watch channel, but it's on everything else. So if you're having a problem with it, check it out on something else if you want to see us live, or just listen to us today. You know, technical problems happen all the time, and with this heat wave, there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know how it affects the atmosphere for broadcasting and the internet and things like that, but all sorts of things are going on, aren't they? Well, here's what's in the news and what happened while I was sleeping, or just before I went to sleep. Hunter Biden, you have to be watching this, because this is showing you what is happening in the United States with their legal system. You know, there's supposed to be 3 parts of government, and they're supposed to be divided: legislative, executive, and judicial. So we all know what those are. Well, it appears that the DOJ, the judicial part, isn't doing their jobs too well. Hunter went in. I'm sure you've all already heard this. If you haven't, I plead with you to start listening to the news. Your country is changing. Listen to CNN or listen to Fox. They all have their opinions, but they also have the facts. So listen to the facts. You can't get around the fact that Hunter pleaded not guilty the night before to his problems. Then the next day he went in with his attorneys and he pleaded guilty. Well, you need to listen to why he did this and what the judge, whom I admire because she's obviously getting a lot of opinions from the attorneys thrown at her and all. She said that the plea bargain was off the table, and that the attorneys need to go out. They have 30 days to rewrite their briefs and give the idea of what they're going to do, prosecuting and defending. So you need to keep an eye on this, because there seems to be in our country 2 different levels of what do I want to say? Legal system. There's 2 different levels of the legal system. One for the administration and the Democrats, and the other for the Republicans, who are only in control of the House. This is a little wacky, because at the same time, they're thinking about coming down with another indictment for President Trump. And the latest news I got was today, former President Trump's attorneys are in with the people, Jack, whatever his last name is, it's escaping me. They're in there now talking about this. So we want to be watching the news for something that's happening and see what exactly is going on with that. So the other thing that is happening is, I'm kind of wondering about this. This is stranger than fiction. This is a committee in Congress that is exploring UFOs. Huh? We get these reports of people seeing them all the time. Well, apparently, the Pentagon has kept reports on this and sightings on this since the 1930s. That's almost 100 years. And they've never said anything to us before. The one man who was testifying was asked if when these UFOs crash that they apparently have been seeing and keeping some of them wherever they're keeping them. A lot of them go to Area 51, I suppose, or so I've been told. They said that, yes, they have found bodies in some of these crashed extraterrestrial vehicles, but they weren't human bodies. Well, what do you think of that? And why has it taken almost that long for this to come to light, for somebody to investigate it higher up? Why is the Pentagon keeping it quiet? So I don't know. We Christians believe that God created the heavens and the earth. Perhaps he created something else out there in the sky. Who knows? Keep tracking it, because it is stranger than fiction and it's getting interesting. So I heard about Joe Rogan, the head lead of everybody in the podcast business. He had a show the other day and they were asking him what would happen if Joe Biden decided not to run, either because of health or because they're talking about impeachment. What would happen? And would Kamala Harris follow through and become the candidate for them? But he says people have been telling him it would be Newsom. He's not in favor of that. He's a California guy, as we are all Californians here. Well, except for our engineering department, which is in Florida. Sorry, Juan. So he says that would be disastrous for the country. And I'm here to tell you, he's had thousands of people leave California because of the state taxes on corporations and personal taxes for the crime-ridden areas in Los Angeles, San Francisco. And I have to add Oak Park, where we live, because not even 2 blocks from us, they smashed the windows, one in a smoked tobacco shop, and stole thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. And the other one, TJ Maxx, they smashed the front windows and took merchandise. That's not even a mile from us. This is craziness. We're leaving, but we're not leaving California. I was born in California. I love California. My daughter is in California. But we are leaving this area and we're going further east to the desert. Now that's going to be hot. Everywhere in the country is hot. It's been about 117 down there. I don't know what's going on, but perhaps we're getting signs that maybe we should straighten up and fly right, because too many people are committing crimes and doing disastrous things, and maybe it's a little bit of retribution that we're not thinking about. Who knows? Now, there is also a movement abroad in the United States, in the Senate and the House of Representatives, that some people are now saying, because of the problems with our president having memory problems, stumbling over words, which I do all the time. All my life I've done it. Having problems tripping and falling. Well, apparently, there's Dianne Feinstein in the Senate. And of course, there's Mitch McConnell, who just had a frozen moment, quite a long moment, when he was at the podium trying to speak to the press. And he fell a few weeks ago and hit his head, but he was supposed to be all right. So we don't know what's happening. He needs to go to the doctor again. Then I read something that came out on a station that's known for their fake news, said that he had fallen several times. So I don't know if that's true or not, but certainly if it is, his cognitive ability could be impaired by hitting his head when he fell. So he needs to be looked at by the doctor and see. Now, I'm not sure that you should have a cognitive test when you're 70 or 75, but when you get up in your 80s, maybe you should. Maybe you should have a physical. I don't know if these people are supposed to have a physical exam every year, but people in business do. A lot of CEOs it's in their contracts that they will go have a physical and make sure that everything is fine. We're talking big business. They need to be on their top of their game, and so do our legislators and our president and anybody who's in government. So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe we should think about that, and we'll talk about it some other time. But that's about all I have for business. We don't want Joe Rogan to be the nominee. Joe Rogan. We don't want, as Joe Rogan says, we do not want Gavin Newsom to be the person running for president, nor do we want him to be president. Just take a look on the news at all the drugs and homeless people in Los Angeles and San Francisco, the worst, but all up and down the coast. It's a tragedy. And it's a problem. Okay, that's it for today. So what I want to tell you is we're talking about anger today. And anger is antagonism towards someone you feel has done you wrong. There's all sorts of different kinds of anger. And I'm getting my notes out here, and I'm trying not to make noise in the microphone as I usually do. So I've made my notes today. I wish I had an assistant here to help me. I don't, but I intend to get one soon. What I want to tell you about are the 3 types of anger. There's 3 types. I did a little research on this, and you wonder why people snap and how they become angry and screaming at each other. And this is the 3 kinds that they're classified as. Passive, where you're calm on the outside and you're boiling in the inside. And then there is the aggressive, when you're ready to smack somebody on the face or smack somebody in the nose. And that's very destructive and harmful. But then there's also the assertive anger, which is honest and sincere, and you're angry. I would call that more like, an example would be somebody in Congress being really angry because their bill wasn't passed. Something like that. They're not going to leave the podium or where they're speaking, go and punch somebody. So that's more of an assertive anger. And we've all felt different ways of being angry. I'm sure I certainly have. I fly off the handle more than I should. But I found out that there is a reason why people do this. And there are different reasons that have been caused by frustration all your life because you feel that you haven't reached your goals, or somebody is keeping you from using or reaching your goals. There's violation. Maybe you were abused as a child. Maybe you were in a terrible relationship and that was very abusive, and you feel violated and you can't get it out of your mind. And then there's the kind of anger because you have been humiliated by somebody. They've made fun of you. They don't like the way you dress, the way you talk, how you comport yourself. An example for that, I would think, would be somebody like Jessica on the Five, if you ever watch that on Fox News. Those conservatives, that's the station I watch, and I love the Five, but they pick on anybody who is a liberal, and they very seldom let them get through their speeches or their opinions on what they're talking about. So I'm sure she feels that humiliation and frustration that she can't communicate what she wants to tell everybody about her liberal views. That could happen to anybody. It can happen to children. It can happen to adults. The idea here is we don't want to become physically ill over the anger that we hold in. You could have emotional reasons or physical reasons, and it can affect you in different ways. There are mental and physical problems that can cause people to get angry. And I'm just going to mention a few of them. And if you really have a problem with anger and not able to control it, you do need to go and get some help. You need to seek mental help and physical help. So one thing that a lot of people talk about is OCD, obsessive compulsive behavior. And that can cause you to start having angry moments because you're compulsive to do certain things and you're obsessed with certain things. And you may take out your feelings on a partner or a friend, something like that. Usually obsessive compulsive people don't harm themselves or harm others, but they may become so frustrated that all of the teacups in the cupboard are not lined up properly that they may just scoot them all off and throw them on the floor. That's obsessive compulsive. Then they would go around and try to clean it all up and make sure that every single little piece was picked up, much like picking the lint off of a dress. Obsessive compulsive. And many, many people have that disorder. Addiction to alcohol and drugs, even when you're not actively involved in using those two things, can cause you to become angry throughout your life and your everyday experiences. Most addiction for alcohol does not occur like most people think, drinking all day long. It's not always a housewife pouring whiskey in her coffee under the guise of having Irish coffee or something from the first thing in the morning through the day. Now, if you're that bad and you're drinking all day long, you definitely need help. But even if you drink too much at night when you go out, and as you get older, it's very difficult to continue to drink the way you were when you're young. So most angry people that have a problem with drugs and alcohol imbibe way too much, and they need to stop that before they harm themselves or others. ODD is oppositional defied. This is kids. I'm sorry. I had never heard of this one before. So this affects ODD affects school-age children where they're defiant and they may be sassy to their teachers. They may not feel like they've been accepted in the group, and so they'll be sassy and maybe become a bully in school with the other school-age children around them and all. These types of things definitely need help with professionals. And then there's borderline personality disorder, which is very common, and it is something that can be treated. This is when you have multiple mood swings without the day. You get up and you're happy and you're singing, and suddenly you don't like what's on the news, or that person in carpool when you're taking your kids cut you off, or you're on your way to work and somebody is jamming down the freeway and they're cutting you off the freeway, the toll road, whichever part of the country you live in. And that just gets you raging. And that's what happens with people with road rage. So that's one thing that you don't want to do, because now with road rage, many people are going really overboard and pulling out guns and shooting at people. The other thing is difficult relationships. Let me give you an example of a difficult relationship. So what if you recently got married and you have a mother-in-law who tries to boss you around all the time, or continues to boss her child around? Let's say it's a daughter, and she's constantly telling her daughter, you shouldn't do this with your husband, or you should do this with your husband. Gets into it. You shouldn't raise your child this way. You should do it my way. Those are difficult relationships, and it often comes from people who have been abandoned in childhood. For instance, if your parents got divorced and you feel like your father abandoned you, or you feel like your mother abandoned you. And sometimes a mother or father just simply runs off and never talks to the children again. And these people grow up and they have problems getting along with anybody. And these thoughts often cause people to think about suicide. There's many reasons why people think about suicide, but this definitely, with difficult relationships and a feeling of abandonment, contribute to that. And other kinds of self-harm. You'll hear about people that cut themselves and slice their arms and all, not all the way through so that they're bleeding out, but they're just harming themselves. They may do other things to harm themselves. So a difficult relationship can cause that, but you definitely need to go get help for that too. Because maybe you're just not understanding somebody, or maybe they're not understanding you. And if you talk to a therapist or someone, they might help you with that relationship. Now, there's some more problems that you need to see competent professional help. And one is bipolar disorder, which seems to be very rampant these days, particularly with people in their late teens, 18, 19, 20, in their early 20s. They are being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and that causes irritability, aggressiveness, manic depressive episodes, one when you're really high and happy, and the next minute you're in the depths of depression. So that needs to be addressed by a therapist who can help you. And then there's premenstrual problems for women, and particularly when they're heading towards menopause. It's when your hormones become so mixed up that you're having hot flashes, you're having mood swings again. You don't know what's going on. You don't know why everybody is being so cranky around you, and you don't know what to do, and you just don't feel yourself. So you want to see your gynecologist and maybe a mental therapist to help you through those periods of time when you are suddenly going through the change of life, as every woman does. So there's also schizophrenia, which is usually also diagnosed in your late teens and early 20s, where you have hallucinations, delusions, you become very paranoid. It can happen earlier, but this definitely is another one that you need to see a professional about. Now, what triggers anger? Well, I've written, excuse me, I don't know why I have everything turned off and phone calls keep coming through to my computer. Oh. The electricity went off last night too, so who knows what's going on. It's the gremlins again. So I've put down some things that I feel are triggers to anger, and I did do some research on this also. And one of them, and this happens all the time to people who become very angry, you're feeling like you're being humiliated, you're not being heard, you're being disrespected, That's the number one thing that makes people angry. Or a traumatic experience, like losing somebody you loved. And I don't mean the end of a relationship, although that could happen too, but it also happens to people who have lost loved ones, sons, daughters, parents, spouses. They go through the time of grieving, and anger is one of them. You become very angry for wondering why this person had to go, and maybe you think, why shouldn't I have gone first? So that is definitely a trigger. Traumatic events, usually with the anger, it's a phase that you're going through with your grief, something like that. You could be having a lot of stress in your life. I think a lot of people are angry now for what's happening in our country, around the world, people yelling and screaming at each other over climate change. Just because we're having a national heat wave doesn't mean too much. It'll go away, and we probably won't have one next year. We won't have monsoons all through the year, but there are countries that do have these things. They're having a terrible heat wave in Europe right now, too. Let's not get into climate change. Climate's always going to change. It evolves. So, excuse me. So, traumatic events like that can get you very angry. And I'd say that not only is climate change, with these people talking about it all the time, but what we are going through politically with the two parties yelling and screaming at each other all the time, which is causing friends to yell and scream at each other a lot. And a lot of people are losing friends. Well, if your friendship is so fragile that you can't discuss political issues without hurting somebody and being disrespectful and becoming so angry that you have to leave, perhaps that person is really not a friend. And I would say, yes, we feel badly that we had a friendship for over 30 years and suddenly we're not. And people won't return phone calls. They won't send you a birthday card. They won't talk to your other friends. It happens. And it's happening more and more here in the United States because of the political division and what's going on with the crime levels rising. The school problems where parents can't have a say in their children's education. It's happening with climate change, as I said. It's happening with a lot of things. How would you like to be my friend who is now in her 80s and has lived in this beautiful area by the beach? Thank God that it is gated and has some security there. Because all around her are homeless people sleeping on the streets. But it's not just because these people have fallen on hard times with no jobs. It's because they're drug addicts. They're drug addicts. They can't hold a job. They're shooting up in the streets. They have the garbage, the tents, the needles on the streets. And this was a lovely area at one time. Well, in her 80s, this is where her husband lived with her, where they had wonderful memories. She doesn't want to move. Why would she want to move? It's very sad what's going on. That could make you angry. It makes me angry just thinking about it. So there are many reasons why the stress of what's going on in our country these days can make you feel angry all the time. It could be other things like financial problems. So many people have lost jobs. Don't tell me that everything is better on the jobs market, because it's not. You have people now that are suffering because of the writers and the actors strike. And I'm in favor of it because AI is replacing people who work. It's not the big stars, and many of the big stars are supporting this strike. It's the writers who they take and they don't pay them for the streaming services on the internet, okay? They're not getting residuals from that. They're not getting paid for that. They're being paid for their one piece of work that was on television and it's ended and now it's streaming and they're not getting anything for it, where that's their creative work. And as far as the actors go, not everybody is a star and makes millions of dollars per picture or a play or whatever they're doing. It doesn't happen like that. They're the little people that go in and they're the extras. They may be sitting in a restaurant as a big star walks through, and you'll see them sitting there sipping colored water as the picture is being made. But do you think they're getting fair pay? They're not making millions of dollars. And that's what they're going to replace with artificial intelligence. They're going to keep using that more and more. And there's many people that are doing that now, or they're going straight to video. They're going straight to streaming on the internet. That's all well and good, but people need to be paid. And therefore, I think they should settle, because remember, California depends on the entertainment industry. And when this happens, this makes everybody angry. They're in favor of the strike. They're in favor of settling the strike. So everyone is treated fairly. You have the caterers, the hairdressers, the makeup artists, the sound people, the grips, the people who, prop people. That's what my son had, a prop company, and I can't even remember that. So, all of these people are not working now. So California is going like this. We're going to have some help here. They are eligible for unemployment after a certain amount of time that they've been out. But they are not eligible to go and work for independent films or anything else. So it's a problem, and this is all over the country. What about places like where AOC decided not to put an Amazon store? She didn't like it. She didn't want it. They're not a store, but a warehouse and all of that. That could have provided thousands of jobs. So this is all crazy. Fortunately, UPS settled their strike and their contracts, so they're not going on strike. But these things add up, and this country is very angry, and it's affecting everybody with their own personal lives. So maybe take a break from the news once in a while and make sure that doesn't get you down and out, and you're not yelling and screaming at everyone. And so what I talked about there with the strike and all, that's an injustice also, and that makes you angry. But you can also have a traumatic experience, an automobile accident, somebody being injured in the automobile accident, all kinds of trauma you can put there, and that can make you angry. And all of those add up to this, the big bad word, stress. Too many people have too much stress in their life. And I got to tell you, I'm one of them. So everybody has stress. There's good stress and there's bad stress. Now we're ready to embark on a new adventure, and that's good stress because we're doing something new and fun. It's something we want to do. It's not something we're being forced to do. We're kind of like nomads. We have traveled all over the country, all over the world, and we've lived in many, many different areas. So this is nothing new to us. It will be an easy move. But it's a new experience. And I think throughout your life, you should have new experiences. Why suddenly, as you're growing older, you stop having new experiences and adventures? So that's good stress. That shouldn't make you angry. That should make you happy. So here are the different stages that we've been talking about for stress. One is the trigger. What's triggering you to become angry? Is it because somebody just said something insulting to you or that you perceive as being insulting? Has this anger been building up within you for a long time because you just hate the fact that your friend is a Democrat or your friend is a Republican, and it's been building up and now you're going to explode and you're never going to talk to them again? That's buildup. Then the next thing that happens to you is you take action. You decide that you're going to have it out with them. But maybe you're not even deciding about the action. Maybe you're just standing there and you went on a lunch date with your friend and they said something that you thought was insulting or just absolutely wrong in your opinion. And it's built up so much that you're taking action and you're just so angry that you're just going to sit there and tell them exactly how you feel, and then you don't want to hear it anymore. And it's impulse to act that got you to that point of being angry. And that's when you start acting out like you're just standing there and just so angry. So now maybe you throw your napkin down, you tip over your glass of water that you're there, and you stomp out of the restaurant. That's acting out. That's your angry release. Then you become relieved. You got it out of your system. But then you decide you need to recover. And as you're walking back to your car, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't really mean to say those horrible things I said. I want to retract them. And I want to repair what I did. So you make a phone call and you tell them how sorry you are that you lost it. I hope they say okay. But that's what happens to people, and those are the things that goes through their heads and through yours. Now, you know what happens when you become angry, what happens to your body and your attitude. Okay, first of all, you get muscle tension. And you put this look on your face, snarly. And then your hormones, such as adrenaline, start spinning out of control. Your adrenaline just gets higher and higher, and your body temperature rises, and your blood pressure rises. And everything increases your energy, but it's not good energy. So people can see that you're clenching your jaws and your fists, and you're scowling, and you're raising your voice, and you start screaming. So what can you do to stop? Well, first of all, you better know what's happening to your body. This can cause permanent damage to you if this is your modus operandi all the time, where you lose it and become angry. And this is why you need to get mental and physical help. Okay? Your blood pressure can increase and it can hang out at that high level, which is very dangerous to your life. It can cause strokes, heart attacks, etc., etc. You don't want this to become what you do all the time. You want to learn how to control your anger and find out what it is that's making you angry. You can have bowel disease, ulcer, gastric ulcers, anxiety, depression, insomnia, substance abuse, and it can even cause diabetes. It can destroy your life. Why do you want to live angry? You don't. Go get help and figure out what's triggering you with all of these horrible things. So what I have to say is, after you have one of these fits where you lose it with anger, I want you to realize the things that are going through your head. You might feel guilty. You might feel shame. You might regret what you did. You might seek the demons that are chasing you around and making you do this. You know, demons are terrible. Maybe you're thinking, oh my God, my uncle was an alcoholic. Now this friend of mine is. And it might trip all of these terrible demons that are chasing you around. So you need to figure this out. And I think one of the things that you should do afterwards is apologize to whom you were arguing with or angry at. There's a saying in marriage, never go to bed angry. And I think it's good advice. Yeah, my husband and I have spats. Everybody has spats. How could you live with somebody for 30 years? My goodness, you have disagreements with your friends, with your children. How could you not have a spat or a disagreement with your spouse? It just doesn't make any sense. And anybody who tells you that they've never had a disagreement with their spouse is lying to you. Now, I'm not talking about abusive relationships where maybe the man is beating up the woman every time he gets angry with too many beers in his belly. He comes out and he smacks her across the face and knocks her down and kicks her. That's not what I'm talking about. That's something totally different. So don't get that abusive relationship mixed up with having an angry disagreement. But what you want to do is try to control that anger and remember how to do it, and then apologize. Maybe you're both under too much stress. All those things can happen. And when it happens to two people at once, it's not a good thing. So you need to think about that and apologize. So here are some things that I want to leave you with today. There are 9 different things to help you with your anger. Number 1 is think before speaking. Many times when you're angry, you say things you don't even mean. And maybe it comes from being in a different relationship or something, and it seeps back into your mind and you say things that are horrible and you don't mean them. So apologize. So think before you're speaking. Explain why you're angry. Oh, you left the water on again. No, I'm talking about big ones. Talk about them and tell them why you're angry that they are saying horrible things about your political candidate or whatever you're arguing about. Number 3, you need to use some relaxation skills. You feel this anger building up in you. You need to use some relaxation skills like taking deep breaths, bringing it in, counting to 10, blowing it out through your mouth, in through your nose, blowing it out through your mouth, count to 10 in between. And the latest craze, and I think it works, is tapping. Look it up on the internet and see how it is. So you'll see some people going like this. They're not just nervous, they're tapping. They're tapping to control their emotions. And I think it's something that has developed over the years and it's quite popular now. And I think it's a wonderful thing to learn. Don't hold a grudge. What if you had an argument all the time with your husband and then you held a grudge and then all of a sudden you're getting a divorce? That's stupid. Or you had this argument with your girlfriend, you hold a grudge. Now you're not friends after 35 years? Silly. Get out and exercise. Go take that walk. If you feel yourself, you're going to just let it go and you just want to just get this anger out. Pick up your shoes, put them on, and go outside and take a walk. It doesn't have to be a long walk. It could be a walk around the block. It could be out to the parking lot and back. Whatever, do it. But get regular exercise too. Number 6, take a time out. Maybe you don't want to see that girlfriend for a few days. Maybe you don't want to see her every month or every week. Take the time out and you won't argue with each other. You'll miss each other and want to be together. And try to use when you're angry and you're trying to present your argument in a bad way, don't blame the other person. Use I. I don't like the way you're handling this. I don't like the way you're bashing this political candidate. Use the I word because you're the one who's angry. And the solutions, it's always to go get mental and physical help if this is a problem that you have all the time. Therapists, psychologists, they're all available now for mental health on the internet. If you can't afford it, there are other places like Family Service always has somebody that you can talk to and you can pay on a scale or you can go for free if you really need help. People all over are willing to help you and control your temper and help you control your life so that you don't have so many problems in it that are making you angry and depressed and anxious. And you do need to go have regular physical checkups, because if you've been living under this much stress and you find yourself getting angry and angrier, you need to go have your blood pressure taken, your blood count done, your heart rate, all of this, to make sure that it hasn't destroyed your physical being as well as your mental being. And another thing, people who are yelling and screaming in front of their children all the time often have children who yell and scream at their spouses and their children. I will confess, I was in 2 bad marriages, and I stayed way too long thinking it was better for the children, and it wasn't better for my children, and I regret that. So my ideas of marriage and divorce are slightly different from most people's. I would never stay married to somebody ever again, and I wish I had known this, because it does harm children. And with those really happy thoughts, come on, it's a great, beautiful day. Get out there, take a walk, enjoy life, forget your anger, work on it, and you'll be a better person and a happier person. So I want to be a little short today, but I want you to go out and think about your life and think about what makes you angry and what you can do to change it. Thanks for tuning in, and always remember, cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today.